suddenly you pause. Now pause is good for two things. First of all, it will get the audience ready for something important you're about to say. But it will also wake up those people in the back who have head a bit nodding. If you pause, they'll wake up because they think you've gone. You're looking straight at them and you've got them. So pause is good, first of all to lend emphasis, and secondly to wake up the audience sometimes. What not to do? Never apologise, never say, I'm really sorry this is a very bad speech because I didn't have time to prepare. Because you told the audience it's going to be a bad speech, and it will be a bad speech. Don't ramble. People do this, they'll talk about this and this and this and this, and before you know it, you've gone all the way around the forest and never got to the point. And finally, don't invent. So if you think you know all the right figures and you say some figure, there'll be always one clever person who will know the real answer, and he'll put his hand up and say, no, you're wrong, and you've lost all credibility. Making a speech, very simple. Know your audience, we said before. This could be a small group or large group. Know very well their education level and what they are expecting. The audience is expecting something from you. Today you're expecting some information on making presentations, and that's what I'm giving. You can easily find out about your audience by surveys, by websites, speaking to people who know the audience well. It's important to know because you need to know what they want. Establishing your credentials, you need to point out who and how good you are. Because the audience will not listen to you unless they think they can respect you. So at the beginning of this presentation, I told you I speak for 31 years, so you had some level of my presentation skills. So you need to do that. Establish your credentials when you start speaking. Don't be shy. Your content. What is the purpose of your presentation? Headline title. If you don't have an exciting title, your audience is bored before you've even started speaking. It's better to have a title that grabs your audience from the very first moment they see it on the agenda. So my title today was Making Rotary Meetings Rock. It's maybe more interesting than something else that's boring. But think about the title. Spend a long time on your title. What's in it for me? Not me, but what's in it for your audience? What is your audience going to take away from your presentation? I would say spend a long time on that as well. It's not your message, it's what they want to hear. And tell a story. David's already spoken about tell a story. The reason we want to tell stories is because, and we'll switch to NICAM here, we are all very whole bagua. Have I said it right? Yes, there you go, whole bagua. We're all very nosy. We love to hear people's stories. So if you build a story into your presentation, the audience wants to hear more. This is how we learn as children. We learn by stories. So do incorporate stories, your personal stories or people you know stories, to involve your audience, to let them accept your message a little better. Your opening should get the audience's attention. You can use visual aids. I remember a few years ago, a lady started a presentation by having a $100 note in her hand, ripped it in half. Got everybody's attention. Now I can't remember exactly what she was talking about, but I do remember she got my attention. So think of ways to make it more exciting, like a good film, for example. Should lead into the speech topic. Most good speeches, and if you look at anyone like Obama, or who else would you say is a good speaker? Sir, who do you say is a good speaker? I'm not for you, can't be yourself, waking up there. Who's a good speaker? Who do you recommend as a good speaker? Can be outside Rotary, of course. Who do you admire as a speaker?
I think one of the very good speaker is our DGE David.
Oh, there you go, man. That's David. I was actually thinking more of Obama, but David's there, isn't he? Okay, so the techniques people often use, good speakers, they keep it very simple. And they have something which is called the law of three. They have 3 points, mainly. So if you listen to Obama carefully, he always talks in threes. They'll say, we're going to fight the recession, we're going to fight the healthcare, we're going to fight the Iranians. Has it in 3. Because we are all, I'm going to use my second NICAM technique, your audience, and me included, you're all very molo. Your audience has no brain, basically. You have to remember your audience has molo. They want it simple. So just think of those 3 points to let your audience get the idea. Any more and they forget. So have simple points. 1, 2, 3. Have a story, have a point, have a story, have a point, have a story, have a point. Your conclusion, very easy. Have a call for action. Like David's call today was call for action, vote now. Or go out and get your suit. A call for action will inspire your audience. Your delivery, important. First of all, remember you're going to use a PowerPoint. Have maybe 5 points down and 7 words across should be your maximum, easy to read. Typeface should be simple. I usually use Times Roman. Sound equipment, make sure you know how to use the mic. Simple, but people forget. Voice, initiation. You need to speak clearly. Otherwise your audience is lost before you begin. I practice every day with a poem. So you can say easy poems like How Now, Brown Cow. The poem I use is Betty bought a butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it make my batter bitter. So she bought a bit of better butter, put it in better, make a bit of better. So I practice with that. You don't have to use that, but use some alliteration way or some poems to practice. Because when you're making a speech, like when you play sports, when you're playing sports, the main thing you do before you play sports is you warm up. When you're making a speech, what you need to do is warm up your main organ, which is your mouth and your tongue. So before a presentation, I will lick my lips. I do this not usually in front of the audience, by the way. I do this in a restroom, but I lick my lip, wet my lips, make sure this organ is ready and it's in good shape before I start presentation. Then I will not get dry lips. The volume, you can be very loud to get the attention, or sometimes you can be a bit lower, still heard. You want to tell a story, brings the audience into your presentation. Variation is important. You may want to talk at a higher pitch sometimes to get the attention, but too loud like this too much means you sound like Michael Jackson. So you don't want to do this all the time. But sometimes you can go lower. Lower usually sounds better. Not always the women, of course, but if you have a deep, low voice, it's good. And pauses I mentioned before. Body language, eye contact. Keep the eyes of your audience. Do look for those friendly eyes. Linger on their eyes for a while, come back again, come to your main point. Facial expressions, the simplest one to use, cost you nothing, and is the simplest. So what do you think is the best expression you can use to get the audience to like you? What would you say? Best expression? Smile, let me go smile. Yes, a smile. So the smile is good at the beginning and near the end. You're talking about a serious subject, of course, you know, there's 10,000 people died. Not so good. But using it at the appropriate time, a smile will let the audience know that you're a nice person, they will like you, they will listen to you. We talked about gestures. So gestures, if you're going to say how big your budget is, use gestures. But make sure the gestures are appropriate and practice with them. So if I say I caught a big fish, not so natural. If I say I caught this huge fish, more realistic, more natural. People will listen to what you say and will look at you as well. So remember the gestures, very important. Be powerful gestures, be hands up gestures. If you want your audience to be involved, a good thing is to ask them questions. But if you ask an audience a question, who wants to vote on this? Everyone's got their hands down. If instead you say, hands up, who wants to vote? Who's going to vote? People put their hands up. In Asia also, I know it's different to the States, for example. In the States, if I ask a question, say, now who knows the answer? All the Americans, their hands will be high up in the air. Yeah. I'll say the same in Asia, nobody puts their hands up. But the difference is, in the States, they put their hands up, but they don't always know the answer. But in Asia, they don't put their hands up, but know the answer. So remember, for an audience in Asia, what you need to do is empower people. So you empower the gentleman to give you an answer. Lean out to them to bring you an answer. Movements. Movements are important to stop the audience feeling bored. The English, when they give a presentation, they usually stand like this for a long time. And they don't move. They're very boring. And I'm English, I know. We're very boring, we stand like this. The Americans, hey, well, how are you going? What are you getting for? Are you coming to this? Yeah, they're right here. They're all over the place. They're running around, lots of gestures. I actually think it's probably better a little bit of in between. So to add the gestures, you may want to move to one point to tell a story, tell a point, move back to your center point, move here to tell another story, tell a point, come back to here. Too much is a distraction. I remember when I was at university, we had a great lecturer. What he used to do was to start his presentation and he would pace. So he'd start walking and talking, and it was great exercise for him. He'd walk up and down for 45 minutes. And sometimes he'd stop here and end up looking like a Teletubby, because the projector would be shining on his face. We were having bets on how long it would take for him to walk up and down, and how many times he'd walk up and down. We weren't listening to him. So too much movement is wrong. A little bit to make yourself look alive is good. Board meetings. We've all been to board meetings, have we? No. Okay. So what can we do about board meetings? A few techniques. One is to make them quick and fast and efficient. Do have an agenda and circulate it before your meeting so people know what you're going to talk about. You may also talk to some of your board members to get their opinion, so you know how the board is going to vote at the time of the voting. So get the opinion before you try to discuss. If you try to discuss at your board meeting, you will find it will go on and on and on, and it will be a board meeting. Give a timing for each topic on the agenda. If you think we're going to leave 10 minutes for this, leave 10 minutes space, so people know how long you're going to discuss. So if it needs to be changed, you can change it, but before the meeting starts. Another technique would be to have a 5-minute rule. Some people I know would like to talk and talk and talk and talk, and you're all there, you all want to go home. You can suggest that everybody has a 5-minute rule, which means they talk no longer than 5 minutes. If they can't get a point across in 5 minutes, then they are failing. 5 minutes time, you let someone else speak. Keep on track. So keep looking at your watch, and you can do it very obviously, the body gesture. If you do this, people know that you're talking too long. So do use your watch to indicate that you may be going on a little bit too long.